There's this huge herd of cows that watches us when we take our morning walks. And they all come up to the line, especially the baby cows, and they watch us. And the dog gets like pretty excited about it. And they just, they're really good at staring. They just watch you walk down the road and then watch you walk back up the road. You're like, okay, creepy cows.
I don't understand what you're expecting. They're cows. What do they do besides watch and eat? It's not like they have like rich inner lives of the cow. Like, I'm composing the next great American novel in my head. Thank you. I'm a cow.
I mean, what else would you do when you're out there?
I'm glad you enjoyed the cows, Danielle.
Sometimes I talk to them in Spanish to see if they're Spanish-speaking cows.
Now, what is the logic behind that?
I don't know. It's a good way to practice your Spanish. Out loud.
Sure. Okay, great.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Book Retorts. I'm Danielle.
I'm Sam.
This is the podcast where one of us explains a weird piece of media to the other who has no experience with it.
Lies! I have experience with this one.
Maybe. You don't know what we're doing just because I sent you things from the book.
Yeah. All we've been texting me with snippets of what you were reading. I'm like, I think I have a pretty clear idea what this is.
It was one day that I did that, and I was waiting for tires on my car and nothing better to do.
I'm glad I'm your friend of last resort.
I was reading the book, and there were a lot of funny quotes from it. I just thought you'd appreciate them.
They were delightful. Thank you.
Like click, click, clickety, clack, clackety, click, click.
I mean, gee, what could that mean?
You don't know.
I think, I have a pretty good idea. I'm not Sherlock Holmes, but I can put two and two together.
Yes, as you might have guessed, listeners, longtime listeners of this podcast, we are doing another adventure, another saga of the crab stories with the 1978 follow-up Killer Crabs by Guy N. Smith.
Big shout out to Philip of the Mind Duck Books podcast for helping us locate this particular book. Without him, this would not be possible. So blame him, I guess.
You beat me to it. Yes. Thank you very much, Philip, because it was a great book. I actually, this might be a terrible thing to say for people who love these stories, but I almost like this one better than the original.
Why would that be a terrible thing to say? It could just be true.
It could be. Maybe it's a good sequel like Aliens.
Yeah, Aliens
or
was a
Terminator
great sequel.
2.
Yeah, absolutely. See, lots of great things are refined and improved upon, or at least modified in interesting ways upon subsequent revisits.
Yeah. There were many things I liked about the first one better, but the second one definitely has a more linear plot, which is nice, and less random stories about people I don't care about.
That's going to help with this podcast for
sure. So there's that.
So are we going to go right into it, or are you going to give me a description?
I am going to send you, well, I'm not going to send you a description. I'm going to send you what's on Amazon because it doesn't make sense.
Great.
And I was like, why is this the thing they have on Amazon?
I mean, I think it's a hallmark of the weird media we do that the places that hold the descriptions for them have to be uniformly terrible.
Yeah, this is great. So I'll send this to you right now.
Quote unquote, their claws were strong enough to snap a man in half. Their shells were impenetrable, even by a 6-inch naval gun. That's a gun that comes out of your belly button, by the way.
That's what's in there.
Yeah, not just lint and bacteria that doesn't exist anywhere else in the universe. It's a 6-inch naval gun. Their eyes glowed with malevolence, and as they tore their victims limb from limb, they seemed to grin with sadistic delight. Can a crab grin? I don't believe crabs have the facial musculature to grin.
Yeah, this book really posits that all crabs have emotion. Much like the first one.
I'm not going to dispute whether or not crabs have emotions. I'm not a crabologist. But I doubt whether or not they have the facial muscles to modify their exoskeletons into what we would approximate as expressions.
Their eyes are very telling, Sam.
Sure, okay. Let me finish this up. Never before had the world seen such an army. All right, great. That was useless.
I know. And weird thing is usually it's like, okay, sometimes it's a summary of the book, sometimes it's a quote from the book. This is neither, and I think that's hilarious.
It's just like a summary of the premise of the series.
Yeah. Anyway, good times.
Great. All right. What's this one called again? Killer Crabs Part 3?
Killer Crabs. Just Killer Crabs.
Sam. Oh, it's just called Killer Crabs. Oh, I thought I was making that up. Oh, boy.
Nope, Killer Crabs.
When the title you try to make up as a joke is better than the real title.
Didn't we do that once where I made you come up with crab titles?
I think you did, yeah. I tried to name the sequels, and they were not great, I'll be honest. But, I mean, they were more creative than Killer Crabs, which... What was the first book called? Night of the Crabs?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's a better title. That's more evocative.
And what was the other book called that I did?
Crab Short Stories. I don't know.
I don't remember that one, to be honest.
Crab's Moon. It was Crab's Moon.
Okay, there we go.
I don't remember why it was called Crab's Moon. I just remember being baffled by that.
Because the moon it makes the crabs... It's like... It's the keeper of the ocean, Sam. It keeps the crabs in some kind of cycle.
Oh, were-crabs. Got it.
Yeah, were-crabs.
All right. Oh, I'm so excited. Tell me, Danielle, all about Killer Crabs.
I will do that. You know what I think's funny, Sam?
Oh, here we go.
That you're... Random tangent.
Sure,
is that you're going to be here. You're going to be in the same state as me for the first time since we started this podcast, I think. Yeah. In like next week, and instead we decided to do a podcast across the country from each other as usual.
Danielle, we're gonna be so busy. I can't record and edit a podcast while I'm on vacation.
Just funny little tidbit for the listeners.
Okay, look, if they want to do the editing for us, I'll happily record an episode for an hour or two on my vacation.
All right, let's do this.
Let's do it.
Do it.
Do it.
All right, the setting, Australia's Great Barrier Reef.
Well, we're not back in Wales?
We are certainly not. We are in Australia's Great Barrier Reef on Hayman Island.
So the killer crabs migrated from Wales to Australia. No mean feat, let's be clear.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna explore here, Sam. Ready? Are you ready for this?
No, but I'm ready to explore, Danielle. Explore me. I mean, wait, no, let me explore.
That's the setting. The time, 4-ish years after the first book. So they had 4 years to get across to Australia.
I don't think that'd be enough time, frankly.
They move quickly. They're giant.
But also, like, aren't the ocean conditions entirely different in us? Like the temperature of the water, the ecosystem, everything?
Probably.
Yeah, okay, sure. Also, when did Crab's Moon take place? And how in this timeline does Crab's Moon fall?
Wasn't Crab's Moon just another kind of slight retelling of the original events?
Yes, maybe. I do not recall.
I think it was like paralleling what was going on. This is much later.
I was worried that Crab's Moon was like somewhere in the farther future. We like skipped ahead and they are coming back or something.
No.
Okay.
All right. 4 years after, the book opens with nobody knew how long Klin had lived on the island. Klin. I'm
Klin.
Assuming it's Klin.
Great. Not Klein?
I don't think so, with no E, but you know.
Same with an Australian accent, see how it goes.
No, good, thanks. So he seemed omnipresent on the island. Nobody knew when he had arrived, and he was a fisherman. He was primarily employed by the Royal Hayman Hotel to take out parties, like tourist parties, local parties, fishing, or diving.
He's a fisher tourist.
He's a fisher tourist. And in the spare time, he'd fish on his own for tuna and crabs, as the island was well known for its mud crab. He was also a bit of a shark guru, and he helped out the shark patrol officers whenever he felt like it. So,
crabspert, sharkspert.
Yeah. He could, quote unquote, smell these sharks out from 300 feet up in the helicopter. Just magically could smell them.
That's not how noses work, or shark noses even. They're not that good.
Had a really good sense of danger.
Okay. He had a spider sense, a shark sense.
Yes. The downside to Klin was he was just a tiny bit of a racist, as you'll see.
What? Is that in the book? Does he say, like, everyone loves him, so he's a racist? No,
that is insinuated by me reading the things that he's saying out loud.
So the book, totally cool with Klin. You, on the other hand, recognize him for the monster he is.
Yeah, it's partly the time, 1978. They're deeply concerned about the Japanese poachers that are coming in to steal fish, and there's a lot of talk about the Japanese poachers in the first little part of the book, and he uses language that we would not use today.
Yeah, okay,
that people would use today, but they shouldn't use.
I was going to say, unfortunately, people do use language today that is... mostly from that era, I would say.
Yes. So he's talking to a local or and actually a journalist from, I think, the mainland about how it's become this major issue, these poachers coming in, and neither government will do anything. There's laws about it, but nobody's enforcing them. So he feels like the fishermen have to take the law into their own hands, and he shows the man his rifle.
No.
And he says, anyone threatening his livelihood should get killed.
That's not how law works. Well,
that's how this law's going to work, Sam. Law of the crablands.
Despite what many laws here in the States might say otherwise, killing someone just because you don't like them is not a valid reason.
Well, I don't think anybody's going to do anything about this in 1978 on Hayman Island.
Probably not.
He heads out in his boat, and his mind wanders to the brunette he left behind at the hotel, Caroline de Bruner. I'll spare you the details of her breasts and her sexual prowess, but just know that it's in there. And she's run through 3 husbands and was very well off, her last husband being a Texas oil tycoon. And Klin himself wasn't doing too poorly, but it was a well-kept secret that he had quite a bit of money saved up. So he looked a little bit like a ocean bum, but he was actually relatively wealthy. Anyway, he feels like he could have gone over there tonight to visit Caroline, but no woman was going to control him.
What?
That's his internal monologue.
So he's also misogynist. Got it.
Yeah, until he gets a hard-on, but then he focuses really hard on the Japanese poachers to make it go away because women don't control his body. It was pretty funny, actually.
So, let me understand, our protagonist?
Nobody's a protagonist in these books, Sam. As always.
That he is a man who is so racist that even when fully aroused by a woman he apparently likes, is also so misogynistic that he would let his racism overpower his arousal just to make sure he can still be racist. I mean, I'm trying to figure out what his mental state is here.
Sure, to his credit, and I mean, I'd have to reread this for better context, but I don't entirely think that he's specifically racist against the fact that they're Japanese poachers. He's just mad that they're poachers and they're outsiders to his community. They're trying to take his fish, and they take like 30,000 pounds or something of fish.
So he's not racist, he's xenophobic.
Sure.
That's not bad. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just trying to understand what his prejudice is.
And I said the language is a bit racist. That was the time period. Yeah. You take it as you will. I don't entirely know that if he met a Japanese person just that wasn't poaching, if he would be particularly care that they were Japanese. Don't know.
Right. Okay. Sure. But I guess it's just impressive to me that, I don't want to say admirable, but, impressive nonetheless that he is so filled with hate that he is able to, overcome.
Redirect his sexual desire, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that is some dedication to hatred there, buddy.
He is really against these poachers, as we'll find out.
And women.
Yeah, and women. Speaking of, he comes across one of the poaching vessels in open water. I think it's night outside. It's much larger than his own with 8 or 9 crew. He's by himself. And he lays low with his gun at the ready as he drifts towards them. But he suddenly realizes that in the moonlight, he's unable to sight with any accuracy. He's on a mission, though, and he starts shooting at the boat, missing his target, but hitting another. And the other boat comes to life, sending a volley of fire back at him, and he's unable to return the shots, and the other vessel makes its way further out to sea, intent on fishing again, because they're unafraid of one lone guy in a boat.
Who apparently shot one of their people already.
Yeah, but everybody else survived, so it's fine.
Please tell me he gets killed by crabs.
I am not going to tell you one way or another.
Okay.
Luckily, they don't hit his motor, and he's able to start up again and decides to head back in. And as he's motoring back, he pauses, seeing something along a reef line that seems out of place. "My God," he mutters. I have quotes.
Okay. I just want to make a quick note that it appears his vigilantism is as flaccid as his desire. Hey-o.
Yes, hey.
Sorry.
Anyway, as he muttered, "My God, it was an immense crab, almost the size of a small car!" Exclamation point.
Sure. Yeah, well, yes. I expected nothing less than this crab.
I'm going to give you every description of a crab in here. So the crab and him have a staring contest, and the crab finally...
Across the water? How far away?
They're pretty close.
Okay.
The crab finally breaks the trance, and Klin hurries himself home. He immediately heads for the man he was talking to earlier, the journalist, and spills the story. And although the journalist is skeptical, nobody would disbelieve Klin, like he has no history of lying or anything. So and he's not drunk or anything like that. So he calls headquarters to report in. And he comes back.
The giant crab or the shooting?
The crabs.
Okay, sure.
And so he comes back to Klin, surprised they actually listened, because apparently this is not the first time giant crabs have been seen. There was, quote unquote, some trouble 4 years ago in Wales.
Yes. A bunch of murders are classified as some trouble. That's very British.
And I feel like this would have been such widespread knowledge. Giant crabs take over a town in Wales.
Every paper in the world.
Like, I know this is 1978, but I feel like you probably would have heard about it in passing at least.
Yeah, no, there'd be movies made about this. It'd be crazy.
Yeah. So he said, some trouble 4 years ago in Wales, but they had sprayed them with paraquat weed killer and thought maybe they'd gotten them all. But clearly some had stayed in the ocean and weren't affected.
Or maybe these are just different crabs. Who knows?
Could be. Maybe we'll never know.
I'm not a crabologist, as I mentioned.
I don't think that's what that's called.
I think it is, Danielle.
As usual, we should find one and have them on the podcast.
Who's the non-crabologist here, you or me?
Well, I've read way more crab books than you have.
Well, you got me there, which makes me more a non-crabologist than you.
Do you eat a lot of crab? I also have eaten a lot of crab.
I haven't, again, which makes me more a non-crabologist than you.
The man says his paper is informing the Australian government, and they'll likely get a professor in Wales involved, the leading expert on giant crabs.
Not this guy again. I thought he was gone.
He survived, Sam.
I know, but I thought he was out of the story at least. I'm like,
that night. Klin has a meeting at his house to get the local fishermen all riled up about the poachers. He doesn't mention the crabs because he doesn't want to divert attention.
Not for sex nor crabs will he put his hatred aside.
And they agree in the end to go out in groups to patrol. And the first group gets sent out. And though as the leader, you would think Klin would be in that group of people, he, quote, had not expected to need a woman again so quickly. And it was one call which Klin could not ignore.
So he got called by yet another. Why is every woman on this island hot for Klin?
It's this same woman.
But
he just realizes he can't go another night without having sex with her.
Oh. Well, okay. So much for his conviction. It lasted all of one day.
One day. I know.
I retract everything I said.
So he heads over to the hotel. And meanwhile, back in the boat, the fishermen are a little concerned, both about being in the path of fire and that they're like half suspicious that Klin is trying to get rid of some of the fisherman competition. Yeah. Because he didn't come out with them and nobody saw his shot up boat. So for all they know, he was like making up the whole thing.
I believe it.
And they do come across a poaching boat quickly. And I guess maybe there's only so many areas to fish in.
I was going to say, that's a 100% hit rate. That's impressive.
I know. And before Mackie, their leader, can make a decision about what they're going to do.
Mackie like the tuna?
Sure. So before he can make a decision, the other boat ends up shooting and Mackie's quickly wounded. The other boat trawls away and the men freeze up, letting them go, not firing any shots at them.
Yeah, because they're fishermen, not soldiers.
Yeah, but they're livid because they're convinced Klin put them in danger on purpose and decide to head back to land to confront him.
I mean, he kind of did.
Yeah, I don't feel like he underplayed it, though. He did tell them the truth. He did tell them, like, you could die, you know, like...
And then he skipped off to go consort with...
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm not saying he was, like, intentionally trying to get them killed or anything. I am saying that he is a guy who said, hey, go do this dangerous thing. Goodbye, y'all. Have fun.
Yeah. And to be fair, they'd set up kind of like sets of groups that were going to do it. So this was just round one. Like, how did they know it was going to go poorly? But alas, as they're maneuvering a dangerous passage of coralled water, the bottom scrapes and catches, tilting the boat. But no, it's not reef. Coral.
Oh.
It's something is beneath the boat, Sam.
Oh, I know what it is, because I remember the movie Bait we did, and it must be a giant shark that's in a grocery store.
It's quite possible that they have wandered somehow into a grocery store during a flood.
Who knows?
The boat rises into the air and the men slide off. Mackie is thrown from the boat and pulled underwater.
Into the air?
Yeah, like half the boat goes up into the air.
Oh, so like tilt up, like one side's being pulled down. I thought like the crabs were like bench pressing the boat up into the air. I mean,
maybe they might have lifted with their little claws and giant claws and lifted it. I don't know, Sam.
You have something like on the surface of the water to push. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Leverage. They're very strong.
Yeah, but they can't just like push off of empty water beneath you. Like the water has to be shallow enough.
I'm pretty sure the crabs can do anything they want.
All right, my mistake. Yeah, I'll continue.
So the men are pulled under the water. Mackie's thrown from the boat and he disappears underneath the water and then his head rises to the surface unattached to his body.
Yeah, of course.
As they're attempting to get away, the ocean surges and the men are screaming, and one man feels a blinding flash of pain and tries to swim for the coral, but he can't make progress. He grabs something next to him for support, only to find out it's a human leg. It's his own leg, Sam!
That is amazing. I love that. That's great.
He immediately passes out and is beheaded by a crab.
I mean, at least he was unconscious. That helps.
A crab, one of the men shouts, "No, it can't be. Look at the size of it."
Who remembers the giant crab from Wales? Did no one ever read a newspaper?
Oh, it was a great scene.
Also, I gotta say, why do the crabs attack the people? Like, you would think if the crabs had come to Australia for greener, or maybe bluer waters, whatever you want to call it, there would be a noticeable, dearth in the fish. Like, the fishing people would notice that, hey, we're catching less and less fish because the crabs are eating them all. And then once they're hungry enough, they go after the harder prey of humans. But it seems like they're just
against humans,
yeah.
Sam.
That I don't get. That doesn't make any. It's like sharks. Sharks don't attack people because they hate people. They attack people because they think they're seals or something else that's easy to eat.
No, it's suggested that the crabs have a vendetta against humans. Don't ask me why.
That's what I'm getting. That's what I'm taking issue with, Danielle. That's specifically.
This is basically like Jaws 4, whatever, where the
revenge?
Where goes across the world to track the family.
That one made sense, Danielle, because that shark had a psychic link with Brody family, all right? Here, the crabs are attacking these random strangers in Australia. They're not even the same people from England or Wales, I should say, or I guess the professor was from England, but he went to Wales. It doesn't matter. Point is, it's not the same people from Wales that they were attacking in the first place. So it's like, there's no one here that they have any connection to. They're just attacking random people.
Yeah, they just don't like humans. Can't tell you why.
I mean, there are lots of reasons not to like humans, I'll be honest. So I don't blame them for that.
Why do the slugs attack all the humans, Sam? I mean, it's a mystery.
Because they were hungry. They'd eaten everything they could eat in their little sewer and had to scramble out to find more food.
Well, maybe they've eaten a lot of fish.
But then the fishermen should have been noticing the lack of fish.
Yeah, that would have been a smart add to the book, but I don't recall it being in there if it is.
Dear Guy Smith, I have some foreshadowing notes for your book, Killer Crabs.
Maybe they mentioned it.
I don't know. Anyway, my point is, these crabs are no killer shark from Jaws.
Or, hey, here's a thought. They do mention the amount of fish that the poachers are taking.
Maybe they're blaming the poachers and attacking the crabs.
Exactly. Maybe he was smart and I just didn't catch on.
All right, you know what? So what I'm thinking is Klin is being racist against the poachers when he should be racist against the crabs.
Crabist.
Speciesist.
Anyway, so moving away from the crab scene, I'm going to kind of skip through the mildly non-consensual sex between Caroline and Klin.
What? No.
It's consensual in the end.
No, I mean, no, and I'm glad you're skipping it. No, and now why does that be non-consensual? Why?
Yeah, it was a real choice. I don't know why you decided to go that way. It was definitely very of the time where the woman's like, no, 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 and then yes, 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 and you're like, okay, whatever.
Like that scene in Singing in the Rain.
You're like, no, thank you. It's such a man writing a woman. It's very funny.
Oh, gosh, man, learn how to write better. Or better yet, don't. Let women help.
I think it's kind of just his vibe that he's going. I don't think he's trying to make realistic female characters, to be honest.
Yeah, obviously. I'm just saying, I think, let the women write the women better. Or if you don't know how to write a woman, consult the woman.
All right. But anyway, it seems satisfying in the end for both parties. And Klin heads out, and he knows something is wrong immediately when he makes it to the beach because there are no boats ashore at dawn as planned.
So all the groups went out and all the groups were murdered?
There were 2 boats that went out, and both boats did not return.
Okay, but there are other boats. Like, I thought that he said there are no boats moored in at all.
No, it's just the 2 boats were supposed to be back by now, and they were not back.
So let me get this straight. The first boat went out, got shot a little bit, and
they
murdered
were
by
out
crabs.
Together in a pair.
I thought they were going out in different groups, but okay.
No, I think they were together. It's not as clear in the fight scene, but later it's clear when they get out of the boats and they're trying to swim for the other boat. I was like, "There's another boat," but yeah, apparently there are 2 boats.
That's also what I was getting confused. I thought when you said they went out in groups, they're like doing shifts or something.
Yeah, no, there were 2 boats that went out, and to be fair, I was probably skimming through them, but there we go.
Yeah, okay. Get back to the crab murder.
Meanwhile, Professor Cliff Davenport
is
aroused
That's our guy.
by by the ringing of his phone, and he's been worried for about 4 years that another crab will be sighted. And when he hears the Ministry of Defense on the phone, he knows it's finally happened. Oh no.
Does he say, I'm retired and I'm out. I don't do this anymore?
No. They've seen a crab on Hayman Island as big as a horse, says the Minister of Defense.
I thought it was a car.
Sam, it changes day to day. And he insists that his girlfriend, wife, I don't know what their relationship is, but Pat, as you may remember. Yeah, wife of friend, Pat, from the previous book, stay behind and heads out.
Doesn't he have a kid too?
No. He had a nephew. Remember that was who gets murdered in the beginning? There
was some child involved in the first book, though, right? Or like a pair of children?
Were there children?
Or maybe I'm thinking of Crab's Moon. I'm thinking of Crab's Moon. I'm getting them confused then because
there was a kid in that one.
Yeah. Okay.
So Klin marches over to the Shark Patrol building. They've had helicopters up looking for the boats and have finally found them.
No, they should do. They should take the Shark Patrol and spray paint over it Crab Patrol.
Well, they're not doing that. So they find them. The boats are capsized. Klin thinks it's the poachers. The Shark Patrol disagrees because the boats were found capsized, which they don't think would happen if they were just being shot at.
Yeah, how's it going to happen, Klin?
Right. I mean, the obvious assumption would be a great white shark, because that's the only thing likely to capsize a boat out there. But they haven't seen one in 6 weeks, and it was heading, away. And Klin, of course, has a moment of realization and explains the crab sitch to the Shark Patrol.
You may have read it in the newspaper, or if not, what are you doing with your life? But giant crabs, they're a thing.
And obviously the man does not believe him because, I don't know, they don't read magazines and newspapers. And luckily, they're interrupted by a phone call. And there's crabs. There's a bunch of them spotted off
they're calling on the phone?
Heading to sea. Yes, the crabs
Hello,
call.
It's the crabs. We're coming for you. Click, click, click. Well, did I hang up? No, that's just them clicking their claws. Oh.
Yes, that's how he convinces them that they need to go out. And
ring,
the guy
ring.
on the...
It's the crabs.
The guy on the phone. The human
crab on
guy.
The phone, Danielle, not the crab.
Well, the crab on the phone says, we're ginormous. We're as big as bleeding elephants.
Brilliant.
I don't know. The sizes are so vastly different.
Either everyone in this book is terrible at estimating sizes, or Guy Smith thinks an elephant, a car, and a horse are all the same size.
It gets worse because there's more of them, and every time I'm like, that's not the same size as the other thing.
Not remotely. Those
Meanwhile,
crabs, man, they got technology. We're really screwed now. They're going to operate our phones.
Meanwhile, back out at sea, the poachers are at it again, and they have just pulled up a big load of crabs.
Yeah,
and I would, and I'd like to share some of the best bits from the story.
Okay.
Quote, the captain stared at the crab in question as it squatted in a circle of light cast by an oil lamp. He gasped audibly. The creature was fully 4 feet across, with pincers the size of heavy-duty spanners. It met his gaze, and in the tiny eyes there was no hint of fear, but of something else, contempt.
It's a crab. I don't think it understands contempt or fear. But also,
I think you're underestimating the crab, Sam.
Also, 4 feet across is nowhere near a horse, car, elephant, or anything else he's mentioned so far.
Well, it's just one of the smaller ones.
Oh, okay.
I guess.
Maybe.
A monster, the captain muttered. A prize indeed. It'll fetch 10 times the price of an ordinary crab.
Get the rubber bands for the claws!
The creature hissed menacingly, almost as though it understood his words. A pincher waved in the air. Click, click, clickety click. Its eyes were fixed unwaveringly.
There you go. Take 3.
Unwaveringly. That's really hard. You try to say it. Unwaveringly. The captain.
That's not easy, I'll give you that.
As though it had already identified him as the instigator of its present predicament. It was no prisoner. It had arrived aboard accidentally, yet it obviously intended to inflict some punishment upon those who had dared to haul it up from the deep.
Yeah, I'm on the crab side.
Yeah, needless to say, it ends poorly for the humans.
Of course.
The 4-foot crab takes them all out.
Impressive crab.
Meanwhile, back at the hotel, Caroline de Brunner is trying to get it on with Harvey Logan, a big game hunter.
Why?
Because she has a lot of sex, Sam.
Then why is it in the book?
Well, it's a little bit of padding, but there's also a story. So
okay.
I promise this is going somewhere. I wouldn't share it all.
You can't just introduce a big game hunter and not immediately make me think, what's he doing on a tiny island?
He would like to catch a great white shark.
Then why is he here where there's been a shark in 6 weeks?
I don't know. Maybe they have more sharks normally. Maybe he just picked an island.
Also, aren't they like protected great white sharks?
Probably.
Yeah.
Maybe not in 1978.
Oh, that's probably true.
So Harvey Logan, no pun intended, seems game to have sex with her, but he...
where's the pun?
He finishes early because he's a big game hunter, Sam.
Oh, it's been so long since you mentioned that I totally missed it.
Anyway, like I said, he finishes early, and embarrassed, he heads off, and Caroline dreams of Klin, her previous lover.
So he couldn't figure out how to use his hands?
Yes.
Men, am I right? This is definitely a men writing
this. She uses her own hands. Meanwhile...
Good for her.
Yeah, it mentions that a few times. Meanwhile, Cliff Davenport has spent the last 4 years becoming the leading expert on crustaceans, I guess. Because now he is.
Wasn't he already a botanist / marine biologist?
Yes. And now he's the leading expert on crustaceans. He's our crabologist, Sam.
So not just leading expert on giant crabs, he has managed in 4 years to outpace every other crabologist on the planet.
I guess after you see crabs destroy everything you know and love, you would be really good at crabs too.
I guess you're motivated, but I still think it takes more than a few years of study to catch up to people with, degrees on crabs, if that's the thing, a crab degree.
Nope. He is the leading expert on crustaceans, Sam.
Okay. Fine, all crustaceans, lobster included.
He's sitting with the journalist in Klin, filling them in on the history of the crabs.
How's a journalist not know? What kind of a journalist are you?
And he said, well, not just the history, but also crabs in general, like how they work.
So they have claws and shells, and they're delicious with butter.
No, he says, as you know, crabs are mostly active during the period where there is a full moon. This is when they spawn. Didn't we look this up? There was,
we asked this question, but we did not look it up because, Danielle, we did not care.
I'm going to say yes. And this is when they spawn, the males carrying the females on their back, the latter injecting her eggs on an ebbing tide so they're carried out to sea. At least according to Dr. Cliff Davenport.
You mean Dr. Cliff Wikipedia entry?
Wikipedia didn't exist in 1978, please. He was using, Encyclopedia Britannica.
Okay, so
or,
Dr. Cliff Encyclopedia Britannica entry.
Something.
Great. All right. Sure. Whatever.
So he wants to do a search to see if he can find out where the crabs are holed up. And they head back out to the reef area where Klin saw the first crab to go diving.
Did he bring his poison with him?
No. Apparently we find out that Cliff does have a fear of snakes, though, and is terrified about encountering a sea snake, which is a little funny because he's on the hunt for killer crabs.
I got bigger fish to fry there, literally.
He seems much more scared of the snake idea.
That's nonsense.
Yeah. And he does actually get attacked by one, but luckily it's a short-fanged variety and he barely escapes. It's really irrelevant, though, because Cliff is not going to die from a snake bite. He's obviously going to die from crabs if he dies at all.
Yeah, duh.
Except for that one guy who died of a heart attack in that one book.
I mean, that was just to throw you off the scent.
For the crabs. The crabs probably poisoned him or something.
Yeah, no, they stressed him out and caused his heart to fail.
Must be it. So they don't find any crabs, and Cliff believes that they're spawning somewhere near the islands, and they have to find the spot so they can kill all the crabs before they send out all their little babies into the world.
Right, so he brought the poison, right?
Well, the dilemma is that they don't want to put it into the water because...
And kill the reef, yes, I got that.
It'll kill everything. So they have to, would have to get all the crabs on land, which is what they did last time. So, unless they can find the island that they're on or wherever it's based that they are.
And as we know, no poison or pesticide sprayed on land ever makes its way into the water.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
Never.
Meanwhile, there's a lot of meanwhiles in this book. Meanwhile, Carolyn is off having sex with another man. This time, a Captain Manton, M-A-N-T-O-N, Manton.
Sure, perfect. Perfect name, no notes.
They finish, and she compliments his lovemaking using the name Frank Burke. The man stiffens and gasps, asking her what she said, and she admits that she knows who he really is. He served 7 out of 10 years for armed robbery, a bank in England. He may have killed a security guard, but they couldn't pin it on him, and £25,000 was stolen. This is quite literally the scene. They're having sex.
I got it. I understand what you're telling me. I don't know why you're telling me or why it's in this book.
Me either. Imagine reading it and you're like, what?
Here we are having a perfectly pleasant book about killer crabs murdering people on the ocean, and suddenly it's a bank robber with a hidden identity. Like, why? Why you...
sex. Like, she's just having sex and then suddenly is like, you're a bank robber. And it's like, why?
I'm going to blackmail you into more sex, I guess, or something.
No, that's not what happens.
Oh, okay.
He asks her threateningly, like, what do you plan to do about it? And she's like, oh, nothing. You've served your time and you make love too superbly for me to start drawing attention to you, quote unquote.
That's how I can get out of prison too.
He laughs and they have sex again. Cut scene to the next chapter.
So that scene is irrelevant?
No, it's super relevant. We'll get
Why? This book, I mean, kudos to this book. It is so far baffled me. I have not been able to predict a single thing in this book, which is not usually how our books and movies go. We can usually be like, oh yeah, that's obviously what's going to happen. But this one, not a clue.
Yeah, and the weird thing is this is actually a coherent plot. I mean, in comparison to where he's usually all over the place with different characters, like, this absolutely makes sense. It's just a bizarre path to get there.
Just an incredibly circuitous route to the plot that makes sense.
This definitely unnecessarily secondhand plot scenes, like, they're unnecessary to the actual crab story, but it's a fun side plot, which I'm going to tell you about because it's hilariously weird.
I mean, if we're not here for hilariously weird side plots, Danielle, then what are we even doing?
Yeah. Meanwhile, back at the Shark Watch station,
Shark Watch.
Shannon, who's in charge of Shark Watch.
Shark Watch.
Is there with Professor Davenport, and he gets words that the crabs are approaching the island.
The crabs! I see the crabs!
They've shot off a couple of torpedoes, but they can't stop them, and they're heading straight for the Hotel Beach.
Isn't this just Crab's Moon?
Yes.
Hotel Beach? Yeah, okay.
Or the first Crabs 1.
Night of the Crabs?
Night of the Crabs.
Crabs 1, Night of the Crab. Crabs 2, Killer Crabs.
They
Crabs
advance.
3. Hey, they're still here? They're still crabs?
There's Human Sacrifice at one point, isn't there? I don't remember all the titles. We'll get there.
We
will get there.
Called Human Sacrifice the Crab Story? Well, let's do that one.
We have all the crab books now, so watch out, everybody.
Do we have all of them? Wow.
I don't know if we have all of them, but there were several in there that Philip sent us. So thank you, Philip. Crabs for days.
I'm going to blame, again, please address all complaints about these books to Philip at the Mind Duck Books podcast.
If you don't like crabs, it's his fault.
Yeah, absolutely. Blame him for everything.
Not ours for doing it originally.
We need to bring him on for an episode of Crabs to make him pay.
Absolutely. Had I thought about this sooner, that's what we would have done.
Next episode with Crabs, I'm going to wrangle Philip.
Okay. So the crabs advance in a V formation. I don't know.
Like
I guess
geese.
They
Not a geese crabs.
They talk about how it's like geese.
or the Mighty Ducks.
I like to assume that they sat around and talked about their defense line before they were coming in.
Okay, we could do a phalanx, but that's kind of played out. Let's do a flying V because while that's used by birds to reduce drag, for us it'll just be very menacing.
So they advance in a V formation. They use the tide to their advantage to hide their movements, like waiting till it's at its peak and then sliding onto the beach.
Sure. Okay.
Into the dark so that they're seen by they're the most strategic crabs in the entire world is what I'm trying to tell you.
They're tacticrabs.
Yes. Caroline, in the middle of an orgasm, is undeterred by the gunfire, refusing to give up on her joy, though Captain Menton is up and staring out the window at the carnage below. He slaps her, trying to get her attention, and she finally mostly comes to. He tries to shake her and stuff, and she's like, leave me alone, I'm orgasming.
With him standing by the window.
Yeah, with him, looking as people are being murdered below. She's obsessed with sex. It's very funny in the story, the way that he describes it.
Wow. I had her character all wrong.
This was one of the surprises to me, too, because I just assumed she was Klin's love interest or something. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, nope, she's now with this. Oh, now she's with it. Okay, well, living her best life. Good for her.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, until the crabs get her, but good for her.
So she mostly comes to, he tells her to wait and he'll come back. He has to get a suitcase from his room and then they can leave the hotel. It's obviously being, evacuated. He's held up by the flow of people outside the door but pushes past them. The suitcase, he's thinking in his head, has over 20,000 pounds in it, and if he doesn't retrieve it, his time in jail will have been worthless.
So he just carried on a suitcase full of British cash and no one is suspicious about this?
Yeah, apparently.
He didn't
launder it
or something, deposit it, whatever it takes to this guy sucks.
Meanwhile, Harvey Logan, game hunter, is in heaven. He's very excited about the arrival of giant crabs, as he's had no luck with someone taking him out to find a great white. He takes
Harvey
a shot
Logan,
from his...
game hunter.
They always use his full name when they talk about him.
I think we should as well. We have to honor his title.
Yeah, they do Caroline's a lot as well, but not always.
What's her full title?
Caroline de Brunner.
Oh, I didn't know she had a title like game hunter.
No.
I mean, we could give her one, but it would not be appropriate for this podcast.
Of a rich oil tycoon. I don't know. So Harvey Logan, game hunter, takes a shot from his window at the lead crab, but to his surprise, it keeps on chugging and it's heading for the hotel itself, trying to climb up to the balcony ledges. But he's interrupted by the Marines who bust in and tell him he has to head out as he's, taking shot after shot at this crab.
You would think that Harvey Logan, game hunter, as a big game hunter, would be aware of the brand new appearance of a new big game known as giant crabs.
You'd think so, but apparently nobody in Australia has ever heard of them.
Or anywhere else outside of Wales, I guess.
He's bewildered that his multiple shots haven't taken the creature out, but he packs up and makes his way out of the room, running directly into Captain Menton with his suitcase. The suitcase knocks from his hand and bursts open, money spilling into the hallway, and instinctively, Harvey Logan, game hunter, uses the barrel of the gun to knock Menton unconscious.
What?
And he drags him back into the room he came from and steals the suitcase.
Everyone in this book sucks.
I love this book.
Also, that suitcase sucks. You bump into a guy, he's like, oh, excuse me, and your suitcase explodes.
Immediately the glass breaks open. I know. I was like, get a better suitcase, dude. It has money in it.
Or wrap a belt or something around it if you're that concerned about be very careful about this money. It's like, oh, but I'm going to secure it in the worst suitcase ever built.
Insane. So the Marines know that the hotel is lost, so they're just trying to allow the evacuees to escape. And quote, the giant crab leader finally dragged itself up to the first floor balcony. After that, it was only a formality to smash the large French windows and enter the building.
Ooh, giant crab, now we're talking.
Doorways presented no obstacle. It enlarged them by sheer brute force amidst falling girders and bricks. Floor and ceilings shuddered beneath its progress.
Wouldn't the hotel collapse? I'm not a structural engineer, but...
It's a very large hotel. Yet it was not bent solely on a quest of destruction. Those eyes peered inside rooms, and sometimes it did not even take the trouble to force entrance. It was hunting for human victims.
Or 20,000 pounds.
Or 20,000 pounds. Let's go on vacation.
I heard... Okay, I've cracked it, Danielle. I know why the crabs are here. So, the robbery happened in England, right? The bank robbery.
Yes.
Okay. So the crabs heard about this. They're defeated by Cliff Davenport, and they're thinking, okay, we need to regroup. We need resources. This guy stole a bunch of money. If we can get our hands on that money, it's untraceable to us. So they go to Australia. They follow him to Australia. Now they're hunting him down, trying to get that money so they can rebuild their army.
That would make the next little part make sense.
Okay,
actually.
Great, perfect.
Willing to go with that so far.
Crabs, there's all about the money for them.
To continue, the crabs sense that not all the occupants may have fled. Once again, the giant crabs had proved their supremacy over mankind. This was only the beginning.
They've never proved their supremacy over mankind. They're always defeated.
Well, I don't know, Sam. This is inside the crab's head, I guess.
Because, they got their butts kicked the first time. We're the superior ones. We just in Australia for our own reason. We came here by choice.
It has a lot of self-confidence.
Yeah. I admire their self-esteem. I do think it's misplaced.
Anyway, back in his room, Menton comes to and tries to get out, but the door is locked from the outside, which seems like a terrible system, but okay.
That's not how hotel doors work. I don't think.
He hears a noise outside and, hoping it's a Marine, shouts for help, thinking they're trying to use an axe to get him out. He stands back from the door as something crashes against it. But no! Yes, it's a crab.
It's a crab. Of course it's a crab.
The expression on those crustacean features was one of sheer gloating as it entered the room.
I do not accept the word expression and crustacean features in the same sentence.
Crustacean features.
No.
Sheer gloating.
I have seen crabs, Danielle. They're incapable of gloating. They're barely...
These are special crabs.
Okay, sure. I don't think that changes the fact that exoskeletons do not provide expressive features.
Yeah, well, it's after the money, so it's pretty excited about it.
Yeah, it's true. It's like, finally, I can buy that tank!
It's gloating. Manton, refusing to allow the crab to kill him, tosses himself out the window, choosing his own death. He dies. Sure. He's dead.
I mean, I figured that's what would happen.
It was pretty fast for a character we just got introduced to like 3 pages ago.
Did we care about him at all?
No. He's just
Great.
He's like a moving piece to the plot.
Yeah.
The crabs head out from the hotel, their work done, taking out the boats along the beach on the way. The crabs hated boats more than anything else.
Why?
Quote, unquote. Because boats send out fishermen who take away their food source and take crabs.
But boats were also a source of food for them, you think about it.
Yes, bringing the humans to them. I don't know, Sam. I'm just telling you what the book said.
Okay. I think it's really funny. The crabs are like, boats! My real enemy!
It does. They take out all the boats.
The people are just incidental, but I really hate the boats.
So they're all along the coastline, and a warship pulls up alongside them. And with no humans along the beach, they start open firing at the crabs. The gunfire and missiles.
This is where the 6-inch naval guns come into play. Everyone knows they close up their shirts and they point their bellies at the people, at the crabs, and then come the 6-inch naval guns.
The gunfire and missiles do limited damage, and the crabs reform into their V shapes, shuffling with trained precision. Is not
a great attacking shape. I'm sorry, it's not a good shape.
Oh no, I'm just letting you know.
They fly in a V because they want to murder. Well, they do want to murder you. That's not why they fly in a V.
They do want to murder you.
They absolutely do, but it's not why they fly in a V.
I'm gonna find a goose book.
Killer geese.
Killer goose, yeah.
That's just any book about geese, the Canada Goose. If you read a book about Canada Goose, it's going to be about killer geese.
Yeah, geese are crazy. Except for one crab. By one chance in a million, a ricochet off another shell had entered below their face, lodging into the flesh. And shocked by the sensation of pain, which it had never felt in its entire life, it slowed, mortally wounded, along the beach as the others retreat.
They're eating good tonight.
Yeah, quote, their leader being the last to leave, nippers raised towards the destroyer audaciously. Nippers. A crustacean promise that mankind had not seen the last of his grotesque army. They would be back, and the return would herald death and destruction unprecedented since the dawn of evolution.
I would be more afraid if he didn't make his promise with nippers, the cutest name I've ever heard in my life.
He puts up his nippers.
You're gonna throw all your little nippers are spreading vengeance on us? Aww.
Nippers are cute till they nip off your head.
Yeah, that's just so cute.
Anyway, crabs have big plans, as you can see.
I mean, yes, clearly.
Such a good book. All right. Harvey Logan, game hunter. Meanwhile,
are we like 10 minutes into this book? How far are we into this book?
Halfway through my notes.
Oh, okay, great. Wow.
I know, we're trucking faster than I thought we'd get through.
Yeah, I thought this book would be like, I thought we were just like at the establishment of the plot where we're just establishing the characters and everything, but apparently we're already
under 300 pages, I think.
Wow, okay.
Pretty quick book. Pulp books aren't usually very long.
Can we trade? You do a Hyperion length book and I'll do a pulp length Hyperion book?
You could do whatever you want, Sam. I don't have to do a Hyperion book.
I'm saying I wish there was a pulp book that was as long as Hyperion and that there was a Hyperion book that was as short as a pulp book.
I'm sure lots of pulp books are longer than that, but not this one.
All right.
Harvey Logan, again, meanwhile, has made his way to the beach. Harvey Logan, game hunter.
Thank you.
Has made his way to the beach. He regretted not having killed Menton in case problems arose later. And
not a problem.
He knew he needed to leave the island if he was keeping the money, but he wanted to kill a crab first. He blamed himself. He must have missed somehow. But to his luck, he stumbles across the dying crab.
Uh-oh.
Quote, it was bigger than a sheep, twice as big.
That is bigger than a sheep. I mean, it's like someone saying, this house is bigger than a cat.
House.
Like, yeah, like, you know, like, it doesn't give you a sense for how much bigger it is.
Twice as big as a sheep.
Sure. I don't know. I mean, like, still smaller than a horse, a car, or an elephant.
Maybe it was a small one.
Sure. Small one. I'll buy it. Whatever. How come everyone that they actually encounter is always a small one?
I don't know. That it was wounded made no difference to him. Nobody would know, and it wasn't the first time he'd stolen a wounded creature and called it his own kill.
So he's just after the glory. He's actually after the satisfaction of the kill,
yes.
Like the hunt? Okay.
His photo would be in all the papers. He'd be instantly famous. He's like very excited about this find.
How's that going to square with your ill-gotten 20K?
I do not know. I mean, it's not like anybody knows about the 20K, to be fair.
I'm just saying, if you just stole 20,000 pounds and murdered somebody, maybe drawing a bunch of attention to yourself isn't the best idea.
Well, he's not the smartest, sharpest knife in the drawer or the brightest bulb in the box or the cookie with the most chocolate chips.
Whatever. Yeah. Okay. I get the idea. Thank you, Danielle. The crab with the biggest nippers.
Yeah, he's not the crab with the biggest nippers.
I'm going to put that phrase out there. This is our new phrase. He's not playing with full nippers.
So he comes up to the crab, he shoots it multiple times, but it continues to stay alive, and he assumes it must be some kind of delayed response and decides to wait it out, because no way he missed his shot that close up. Screams echo from the water, and he looks over. The destroyer has been invaded by crabs! Their last act of destruction for the night.
No! It's not the destroyer! No!
Yeah.
My God, the crabs are everywhere! Oh my God.
He turns back to the crab, and it's finally passed away. And he yells back to the others along the beach, and he's like, I bagged one! And the warship couldn't do it, but Harvey Logan, game hunter, certainly could. Give or take. Excited by his kill, the money lays forgotten on the beach as he's swept up in the crowd.
Wow, so he murdered Mentok for $20,000, immediately loses it out to sea. The crabs collected in the ocean. Their plan succeeds. +1 to the crabs.
It's just that we just know the suitcase is on the beach, and we don't know how close to the water it is.
I think it's gone. The crabs are going to get it. It's right there.
The next day, the crab has been taken into custody, and Harvey Logan, game hunter, has scanned the beach trying to find his suitcase to no avail.
The crabs got it. I told you, man. They're all after the money.
It was
all a heist. This was just a heist.
That would be fun.
Wouldn't it be great if one of the books was like, crab heist?
I would 100% read that book.
I would beat you to it, Danielle. We couldn't do this podcast because we both have read that book.
So Cliff Davenport is dissecting the crab to garner more information. Obviously, this is like the first, maybe not the first crab they found. They did kill all the other ones, but this is the first one they shot.
Well, yes, it's a crab. It's got legs. It's got nippers. Everything I expect from a crab. A highly expressive face.
I think they're curious how it died because it wasn't,
I know. Okay.
Weed killered to death.
Okay, Danielle, just let me have my joke.
They find the deep wound beneath the creature's neck from the ricocheted missile. It's only a weak spot as far as they can tell, which is virtually impossible to shoot out, let alone with large enough caliber of gun.
So basically, it's like video game boss with a single weak point.
Yeah. They discover it's a female filled with eggs, and Davenport reconfirms that the problem is exactly this, but they are like that the crabs are starting to mate and all that good stuff, but they're not sure how to solve it. If the breeding ground is far enough away from people, they could bomb it, like if it's on an outward island.
Sure.
And he wants to get a helicopter up and look for the grounds. He's hoping he'll find them all congregating to mate and take them all out in one go.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. Get those crabs.
Yeah. Klin, meanwhile, is scouring the beach after the incident and
finds the money.
Happens upon a suitcase. He sure does. To his surprise, as you might imagine, it contains a bunch of money.
Is Klin working for the crabs? Is he part of the heist?
Yes.
Okay.
His home has been destroyed by the crabs, and though he has a nice little nest egg, this would give him a major leg up.
I mean, an extra $20,000 doesn't hurt.
Yeah, especially in 78. I'm sure that was quite a bit of money. He hides it behind his property in the woods. He buries it.
He's just asking to be murdered by crabs.
I know. They're on to him. So the hotel is up and running again as much as it can be, kind of as a temporary shelter. And some of the residents chose to stay, such as Caroline. And Klin visits her after burying the suitcase. He tells her he's been thinking about her. She had mentioned marriage at some point. Mind you, they've known each other like 3 days.
Wait, Klin? They've only been together 3 days?
I think so, because I
thought it was like a long-standing affair. It was like, he was like, I'm not going to let her control me, because, that's like their pattern or something.
I get the impression that, like, the first time he had sex with her was, like, before the book started. Just this, like, that was his second time that he went to her. At least that was how I read the book. Like, they had a very short relationship.
No. Bonkers.
Because she's just a tourist. She's, like, in the hotel, hanging out.
Oh, okay. So she's just there as like sex tourism.
Yeah. She's rich. She's hanging out. She's doing her thing. I don't know.
Why not? Good for her, I guess.
So they've known each other as far as I know. They've had sex 3 times.
Sure.
And now that he's happened upon some money, he feels more even with her, like he's well off, she's well off, and he wants them to run away together. He tells her he came upon 20,000 pounds, and while initially skeptical, she starts to wonder if he somehow came across the money from Menton, knowing that he supposedly jumped out of a window.
But also, like, why would she assume, oh, yes, he had it in a suitcase? Just leaving it around.
I don't think he specifically says he found it in a suitcase. I think he just says that he came across 20,000 pounds.
Yeah, I got that. I'm just thinking, why would she be like, oh, yes, maybe it's the same money because...
Well, because she knows that the previous guy had
but
stolen
he's
25,000
pounds. Who stole it in a
pounds.
freaking suitcase instead of, I don't know, a bank somewhere.
It would be a series of weird things. Like, you might think, I wonder if it's the same money.
I'm still thinking that's a bridge too far, but whatever.
I think it's tenuous, but I could see you thinking that. But yeah, maybe it was more common in 1978 to carry around giant sums of money in a suitcase, Sam.
You know what? I wasn't there. I can't tell you.
So she's not sure she actually wants to run off with him, but she pretends to be interested just because, she enjoys the sex and she might have money. So
double bonus.
They have no luck in the helicopter the first day, Klin and Davenport and Shannon. And that night, they're at the bar watching Caroline talk to the big game hunter. Davenport, well, actually, Klin's not there, but Shannon and Davenport are, I think. Davenport threatens to have him thrown off the island if he keeps trying to get involved in the crab situation because he was not actually the one who killed the crab. So it's like he doesn't know. Say over it, the crab was destroyed by a missile.
He found a dead crab and was like, I killed it.
Yeah, he may have shot at it and he may think that he killed it, but he didn't. It was totally the missile. And Harvey Logan, meanwhile, is telling Caroline all about how he shot the crab down. And Caroline casually mentions that one of the guests there was killed during the crab attacks, Captain Montan, when the crabs came in. And Harvey gets kind of jittery that she might know something.
Harvey Logan, murderer.
And says he never met the man. And she heads off. They finish up their conversation. She heads off and his eyes narrow because he knows somebody found the suitcase on the beach and he wonders if maybe it's her for some reason.
Maybe it was washed out to sea or picked up by a crab.
And he says that if it's her, he's going to recover it like ASAP because it would give him great satisfaction since he had a score to settle with her since she rejected him once.
What?
I don't know. It's so confusing because he's the one who finished early during their sexual encounter. And then she was like, well, maybe we can try another time. And
he was like, no.
And he got all like angry about it because men, no offense.
No, fair. Especially for how they're represented in this book.
And then he leaves and somehow she's the one that rejected him. I was like, ugh.
This is nonsense.
I was so mad about this line.
That's fair. Absolutely fair.
To the writer's credit, I'm pretty sure he knows this guy's terrible.
I would hope so. But does he know why he's terrible?
So after some investigation on her part, Caroline feels that nobody saw Menton leave the hotel with the suitcase. So she wonders if Klin really has it buried out back. Like if he got the money. I guess he must have told her about the suitcase because otherwise how would she know about the suitcase?
Yeah. Okay. It's good. Thank you.
And she decides she's going to check it out. And the next morning, she heads out to look.
She's like, oh, I recognize this suitcase. It's the one from the robbery.
Well, Klin had described the location, and she feels like there's an awful lot she could do with $20,000. There'd be no more deception.
She just wants to steal it. She doesn't want to, verify that it belonged to the guy who was murdered. She's like, I'm just going to steal it.
We'll get into her motivations right now, considering she's a wealthy oil baron's ex-wife. Why is she looking for $20,000? And
pounds,
to get her internal...
Danielle.
Sorry, 20,000 pounds. You get internal model... Whatever. I did it all before. This is the first time. It's because all my notes just say 20K.
Fair.
So we get her internal monologue, and she is thinking that there'll be no more deception. No longer would she have the threat looming of having to move at a moment's notice. The Caroline de Bruner act was getting old. They'd almost caught her in Monte Carlo, and the FBI circulated her description to Interpol. The real Caroline de Bruner had been detained only recently for questioning in New York. They looked so much alike that only someone who knew either of them intimately would be able to tell the difference.
So she's a doppelganger who's pretending to be her and running up her credit?
Pretty much. If she could
only in 1978.
And in that one book about the twins.
Which book about the twins?
The murder twins. Sweet Valley High.
Oh, Sweet Valley High one. There are other books with twins in them, Danielle. Let's be clear.
Not that we did.
Yeah, there was the clone one. The clone twins.
Yeah, they were kind of twins, I suppose. Gosh, we do some weird stuff.
Yes.
So if she could find the money, she wouldn't have to go back to being Susie Thompson, ex-model. Not that she even could, because someone would notice her likeness to Caroline and start to question it. And so she's contemplating her work choices and thinks that the only thing that she could actually do is sell herself for money.
So... to be clear, she is just pretending to be this other woman with no, forged identification. She just looks like her, and everyone in the world knows what this woman looks like and takes her at her word.
I have no idea if she's got, they don't get into this. I have no idea if she's got, credit cards in her name or forged paperwork or an ID. I mean, that was probably a lot easier in 78. I don't know. I assume she must have something, because otherwise how's she signing into stuff or whatever?
That's my question.
So she finds the location she imagines the suitcase is going to be in and starts digging, stopping when she finally comes across the leather of the case. Thrilled, she starts counting the money, but is interrupted by a feeling that someone is there and watching her.
It's a crab!
Yes. No, out of the trees steps Harvey Logan, game hunter.
Hunting not just game this time, but cash.
Yes, he thanks her for showing him where the money is hidden. She tries to convince him to split it, as they both know it was ill-begotten, but he declines. And she pretends to hand... My notes get very dramatic when I read the crab books.
I can tell, Danielle.
They're never this dramatic with other books.
Much is the pity.
She pretends to hand it over, but instead runs for it, and she almost escapes, but a rock shoots forward, hitting her in the head and taking her down, her neck at an unnatural angle.
So he threw a rock at her and killed her with a rock.
100%.
Okay, that's a way to do things, I guess.
A crazy end to this woman's story.
Why is this plot in a book about murder crabs?
I don't know. It's obvious, like, some kind of background padding, but it's kind of an interesting story, to be honest.
I mean, it was that interesting, but at least, like, it feels completely superfluous to the crabs.
It is.
Okay. Just that's a choice, I guess.
Harvey regrets that he had to kill her, but the money was more important. And he doesn't feel like he has time to hide her for some reason. I don't know. Sure. They're in the woods.
Fear to the crab!
But he knows the minute they find her, he'll be blamed for it because the Marines outside the hotel saw them both leave, like her leave and then him leave after. And he decides he has to hightail it off the island. I feel like maybe you should bury her.
Or take a few minutes to drag her into the woods and cover her in some brush, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's like a major woods. It sounds like it's more just a little section of trees.
It'll buy you some time. No one's looking for her yet.
Yeah, maybe it's a high traffic area. It's a little unclear.
This guy's backyard is a high traffic area where he buried the money.
Well, it's he's just a little ways away from the hotel, so I think it's just.
I just say I don't buy that.
Yeah. Well, maybe he didn't do it right behind his house. I don't know. Maybe he did behind the hotel. I can't remember. I'd have to look through. Don't know.
Okay, I'm just saying, I agree with you. Not burying her or hiding her is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy. So he decides he has to get off the island, but first he needs to collect a trophy from the crab because he refuses to leave without having a proof that he took down this giant crab.
This dude sucks.
Meanwhile, back in the helicopter, they're about to return back, but once again unsuccessful when they see a small island in the distance. And the helicopter's getting kind of low on fuel, but they decide to head out and check before going back.
Shark Watch never gives up.
Yeah. They land the helicopter to search for crabs, and while at first it seems empty, they hear the telltale click-clacking of crabs in the distance, and a crab thunders past them.
Like they did the whole time before?
It's filled with mangrove trees.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. So they can't see underneath them. So the crab thunders past them, using its claws to tear away the foliage to make room for its large body.
You think that'd be visible from the sky, but what do I know?
I don't know what mangrove trees look like from the top, how dense they are. Sure.
But if someone's ripping them out is my point.
Yeah. So Davenport is pretty shook. It was twice as big as the ones they'd seen earlier. And he tells the others that
4 sheep.
He tells the others that the Welsh crabs had a leader nicknamed King Crab, and the one they're seeing is the living image of it. Even its evil features are identical. But it can't be.
It's the same crab!
It's not. Unless the original wasn't a king at all, but a queen crab. And when one died, another took its place.
Okay. So they're like bees now? They're crab bees?
They describe them as ants, but yes.
Okay, whatever.
Say they believe that she's making a reconnaissance of the island prior to the spawning.
Why does she have to do that? Wouldn't the reconnaissance best be handled by her troops?
I don't know. Maybe she's a very active leader.
Clearly. You know what? Honestly, some of our leaders could learn something from these crabs.
It seems like she's always at the forefront of the army. Like she's like King Crab was like that too. King quote unquote crab. Like always wherever there was stuff going on. They're very active to their people.
It's hard to argue with the ethics of these leaders. I'm sorry.
No, it is. They make their way back to the helicopter, emerging from the forest, but to their horror, the helicopter is gone!
Who could not have seen that coming?
They search the shoreline and find remnants and blood. The queen crab got him and smashed the radio.
Smashed the radio and murdered the pilot?
Yes. Aww. And tore up the helicopter. This is a very smart crab.
Very smart crab.
So they're now stuck on an uninhabited, unknown island with crabs about to spawn. Oh no,
I mean, the baby crabs are not going to be a problem, right? I don't know how crabs work.
But all the crabs are coming to this island to spawn.
Oh, yeah, then they're screwed.
Yeah, they're dead. So they hunker down for the night to watch out in shifts. Klin suggests starting a signal fire the next day, and Cliff suddenly sits up. Fire! Since they can't get a hold of anybody to bomb the island, they should set it on fire. They would have to
stop the crabs?
They would have to surround the islands so the crab can't go back into the water. So what their plan is to do pyres at intervals around the island, and then the three of them
make a ring of fire to keep the crab from being able to leave the island.
Correct, and burn them all.
But didn't the crabs already leave? Oh, you mean when they come here to spawn? Surround them in fire. When they come to spawn. Okay, this is dumb for several reasons.
Yes, Sam, please enumerate.
I would love to. I'll enumerate immensely. Number one.
Enumerate immensely.
I will. That's what I do. How are you going to make a ring of fire and control it? Wildfires, notoriously very controllable, right?
I don't think they're trying to control it. They're just trying to quite literally burn the entire island down.
Right. They want to make a ring, though, so the crabs can't escape. So how do they make a perfect ring and ensure there's no gaps? I think that
pyres at strategic intervals, and then the three of them run, light all the pyres.
But the pyres are at intervals, which means there's a gap between the pyres.
No, they have to be far enough apart that they create a ring of fire. And I'm sure they're putting sticks and stuff in between, Sam. They describe in detail the plan. I'm not saying it's a valid plan, just that they describe it.
Second, I think the crabs could easily jump through a fire. I'm sorry. I think they could just run through into the ocean. They would be fine. People, can jump through flames sometimes. It's not like, oh no, fire. It's instant death. It's not great, but, it's probably in a panic, whether it's, certain death on a burning island or escape to the ocean. They would probably,
sure.
Some of them would escape.
Makes sense to me.
So here we go. I'm just saying, it's a dumb plan.
Those are your enumerations, 1 and 2.
I mean, I can do a third one, too, where the original plan of getting a signal fire and then having them bomb the island was better, or to poison it with the poison.
I think they're still trying to do that, but they don't think that they're going to get rescued in time.
All right, sure. I don't buy it.
And it could be today that the crabs come. They don't know quite when it's going to happen.
Is it today when the crabs come?
We'll find out in just a moment.
Okay. Enlighten me.
Okay. So that's the plan. They're going to put pyres all around the thing, trap them on there. They might not make it, the humans, but it would be a small price to pay to destroy all the crabs.
They won't destroy the crabs no matter what.
Colonel Clinton has received an official warrant of arrest for Susan Thompson, alias Caroline de Bruner. He tells the inspector that he's seen the girl and she's staying at the hotel. And the inspector is like, no, she's not. She's dead in the woods. Dun, dun, dun.
Should have buried her.
Yeah, among others, such as Captain Montan, who they believe stole 20,000 pounds. They suspect Harvey Logan, game hunter, who was seen leaving after her and returned a while later and checked out. And Clinton is like, oh, I can help you with that. And he takes him over to a locked and guarded hut. And inside is...
Harvey Logan, game hunter.
Correct. He was detained.
I was going to say a giant crab, but that was my
after trying to collect a pincher from the crab, the colonel explains. He became violent and 3 men restrained him, and during the struggle, a suitcase he was holding burst open and money came out.
A suitcase? This is the best dramatic timing.
Problem solved. Harvey
also,
Logan's
how dumb is Harvey Logan?
Really
I don't feel bad for him. He's just the biggest moron on the planet.
Such a random story.
Yeah, not necessary.
Oh, so good. Yeah, it's very necessary, Sam.
Okay, sure, my mistake.
So the next day, the 3 men on the island start setting up their pyres around the beach. And that night, before they can finish...
They're useless pyres. I'm not going to let it go.
They see a few crabs arriving, females on the backs of males heading into spawn. And they realize that it's started. So the next day they work frantically, their time running out. And that night the crabs come from everywhere, surging up and onto the beach and into the mangrove forest. There were 10 times the amount that they anticipated, and they're right in their path. They have to hide under a shelf. The crabs are click-clacking on top of them, walking over the shelf, and they're just barely tucked in there, able to stay out of the way.
Clacking their nippers, you mean?
Yeah, click-clacking their nippers.
Excellent.
And their little legs going across the rocks, going click-clack, click-clack, click-clack.
No, only the nippers. All I care about the nippers.
Once the crabs pass over top of them into the forest, the men run out, intent on setting their fires. And the crabs, furious, try to make a run for it, but the fires hold them at bay. I don't know. Their plans seem to work fine, Sam.
I mean, I'm sure it's going to work great in the book. I think that in actuality, it would not stop giant crabs the size of elephants that are built like tanks.
It's true.
Oh no, it's a little fire. I can't possibly, scuttle through there very quickly to the other side and be, maybe I'll get like a little burn on my underbelly, but it's also armored, so it's probably
maybe they're
totally
really
cool.
Large pyres. I don't know, Sam, but apparently the entire island's on fire.
Less than a day?
Yeah,
on an entire island?
Magic.
With 3 of them?
They didn't sleep very much because they talk about how tired they are.
Nonsense. How much dry wood is even on this island if it's a mangrove forest?
So apparently a lot.
Nonsense.
So Shannon, trying to get to the last of his pyres, looks out into the ocean and stops, seeing the queen crab. For whatever reason, she had not come up onto the island. He thinks perhaps she didn't bear offspring, or having reached the, quote, ultimate in crustacean evolution.
Sure. Once you're elevated to a high enough level, we no longer need to breed.
Yeah. Or perhaps there was no man that could support her weight on his back.
Also, from an evolutionary perspective, you want your best to breed. Just saying.
Yeah. Or maybe none were allowed to mate with her. He didn't know, but he knew he had to pass her to set the last of the pyres, or the chain would be broken and there would be a gap for the crabs to leave.
So, the only one who doesn't mate is the queen crab because she's too big.
Perhaps.
Or
maybe
she's reached
the
taboo.
ultimate in crustacean evolution.
No, I dismissed that one out of hand. I like the idea better that it's like, oh, I'm the queen. I wouldn't dare mate with a common crab.
Yeah, I have to assume she's waiting for Prince Crab.
Yes. Prince Nippers.
So as he runs past her, she attacks, and he throws a burning branch at her, and she falls back, squealing and hissing in crustacean rage.
Is there anything in this book or the previous ones that establish the crab's aversion or weakness to fire? Like they are, I don't know, the scarecrow from The Wizard of Oz?
No, there's no reason why fire would be any more useful than, I don't know, a missile.
Bullets? Yeah, okay. Just making sure, because this is what I'm getting at, which is why their plan, I think, is super in the beginning. If a 6-inch naval gun is nothing to them, and those are very hot when they explode, then I doubt that a brief, bonfire is going to have any impact.
Maybe it steams them from the outside in, Sam.
Yeah, but that takes time, Danielle, time.
Well, if they're trapped on the island, maybe it's enough time.
That's what I say. They could just jump through the ring of fire is what I'm getting at.
They should eat these crabs later. It'd be so much good meat on this island.
I mean, that's obvious. My point stands, Danielle.
Anyway.
My crab fact is these crabs are immune to fire.
Sam's crab fact corner. Do.
Thank you.
Anyway, he throws this burning branch at her, and she hisses in crustacean rage.
Yep, of course. They're rageful crustaceans.
I like that he just picks emotions and then puts crustacean in front of it. It's totally valid.
The crustacean rage is much different than human rage.
The fire blinds her, snuffing out her evil eyes into blank orbs, and she backs into the ocean as he finishes up his pyres, meeting with the other men.
Don't crabs have more than 2 eyes?
I have no idea, and you would think that, gunfire and stuff would also blind them more frequently, if that's the case.
If they're that vulnerable, if their eyes are that vulnerable, you'd think that a 6-inch naval shell would blow their eyes off their stalks or whatever.
This was somehow the part I found the least convincing. I was like, why would fire blind her instantaneously? A fiery branch.
This is why I found their whole plan not convincing.
The rest was fine. It was this one scene.
No, this is all terrible. Bad plan. Crab heist all the way.
Yeah. So he meets up with the other men. He tells them about the queen, and they pray that she's not pregnant as they start to follow the tide out to be, outside of the fire.
She's definitely preggers.
Hiding on a slice of coral outside of the island. And the next day, they see a plane flying over. Hurrah! They're saved.
And they quickly poison the entire island just in case any eggs survived or whatever.
Yeah, that's what they do. No,
why are these people idiots?
They clamber aboard the helicopter that's sent by the plane's pilot, and Davenport remarks merrily that he needs to call Pat and tell her the good news. Shannon thinks that he'll soon be back to the normalcy of Shark Patrol, and Klin smiles to himself, realizing...
No. Shark Patrol!
Shark Patrol. And Klin smiles to himself. He realizes he was just infatuated with Caroline. He doesn't actually want to run off with her, but he's got a suitcase full of money. He might just leave it buried because, there's a lot of fish to catch. She was living a good life, and wealth would only take the challenge out of his life.
Sure, idiot.
The end.
That's the end. They don't succeed. They use a plan that's somehow worse than the one in the first book and less effective and less likely to kill the crabs. They're like, job's done.
None of the crabs left the island, as far as I saw.
Yeah, because they had the whole island surrounded and scouted and made sure nothing made a leap of faith off the island or whatever.
Just letting you know.
Dumb. I was on board with this book up until that fire plan. I'm like, no, that is terrible. Bring back the poison.
What else are you gonna do?
The poison. The poison works. They knew the poison works.
Yeah, but they're stuck on the island. That's the problem, Sam.
But Don't make them better. Make them bring the poison with them on the helicopter because they're trying to find the crabs. And they can they crash with the poison. The crab
would have taken out the poison. He took out everything. Took out the radio.
No. If they took out the poison, would have killed it, right?
Maybe.
You can't I can just smash this poison container open. Oh no, I'm covered in poison.
Yeah, but that's one crab. Then all the poison wouldn't have mattered.
That's the queen crab, though.
I don't know, Sam, but that's the book.
I love this book so much, and the ending, I hated it so much. Why did you disappoint me with the ending? It was so good. It was so good. We're like firing on all cylinders. There was a crazy side plot that made no sense, and then suddenly it's like, oh yeah, we'll just set an island on fire and kill the invincible murder crabs. Perfect. No.
Talk to Guy N. Smith. I didn't write the book.
I will, thank you. Oh, why? I was so happy for crabs, and I wanted to be murdering, I feel this book didn't spend enough time with the crabs. Like, the previous book, the first book, felt like it spent a lot of time with them, in the caves with the crabs and, figuring out their stuff and doing the dynamite first, and that didn't work. And then they did this, and that didn't work. Here's just the first thing they try works great. They set an island on fire, job's done. Not even a challenge. That's why I'm feeling like this was a bit of a letdown, because I expected more drama. Maybe they tried the poison. Oh no, they've evolved to be immune to the poison. Like the survivors. So these ones are now the immune crabs.
There's
bacterial
4 more
resistance.
books or something, Sam. So I'm hang in there. I'm sure there'll be more.
I wanted more from this book.
Huh? That's what we got.
I think they spent too much time on the crazy side plot, not enough time on the actual crabs.
Oh, I did skip one crab scene, if that makes any difference.
No, I mean, I wanted more of them trying to kill the crabs and failing until they finally get their solution. It makes the crabs not much of a threat if, throw a branch at them and then set an island on fire. It's done. That was easy.
Yeah.
They didn't fail.
There's this really random spot in the middle of the book where this drunk guy, stumbles out. He finds the head of that guy that died earlier, the fisherman.
Sure, love him.
Yeah, and he's gets caught on a coral reef or something with the head, and he starts talking to the head, and the crabs come and attack him and kill him. And it was the most random 5 or 6 pages. That's why I kept it out of the story. And
sure, makes sense.
Which it would have made more sense in the first book, because that was much more common in that one and in Crab's Moon or whatever, where he just went from
the crabs to the threat and showing what they're capable of.
Yeah, it just showed little mini vignettes of stories of the crabs. But this one followed a plot so linearly, and then it was just randomly and this drunk guy. And I was like, who is this dude? It's the only side story that he does. It's so weird.
Sure. I wanted more of that. I want a crab heist all the way. Crab heist for the money. And I wanted to be more the crabs are more powerful now. They've grown in power. And it seems like they've gotten weaker. And they've become more weak to fire somehow.
They did send the money off. Maybe the crabs will intercept it.
There you go. Maybe this is part 1 of the crab heist. They have to pretend they're all dead. And okay, they killed us with fire. Then they won't be looking for us anymore. They've gone underwater. And now they're going to pop up for the heist later.
There's 100% crabs left.
Yeah. So obviously crab heist is here to come. Great. I'll accept this as a cliffhanger ending. What I really wanted actually was a coda where it's clear the crab survived and we're just fooling him, pretending to be killed by the fire.
Yeah, that is not in the book.
Unfortunate.
It does tell you the plot of one of his books about bats who are infected with meningitis who manage to escape and take over the city or something.
Is this just going to be a Guy N. Smith podcast from now on? Is that what we're doing here?
The books are great.
Is that our new plan? The Guy N. Smith, mystery hour or whatever it is?
He's got quite a collection of things that would be worth potentially being on the podcast.
Amazing stuff. Honestly, great book. A bit of a damp paper towel of an ending, but otherwise excellent.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
100% crabs. Oh, more crabs. And Danielle, what was the crab fact you learned from this book?
I'm not prepared.
No, Danielle, you gotta be prepared. Always be prepared for crab facts.
I think that the crabs have actually metamorphized into something strong. They're more emotional now than they were before.
So you think they've become physically weaker, but more emotionally mature?
I think they're pretending to be physically weaker. I bet they all survived the fire.
I think, okay, thank you. I'm glad you're on board with my plan there.
I think they're oh no, it burns. hurts. They're still watching. Are they still watching? Oh, no, it hurts.
That's exactly what I wanted the coda to be. All the crabs like get back up, like, hey, they bought it, and they scuttle off into the ocean.
I'm pretty sure that's my crab fact, is they have become more emotionally savvy and now they're just manipulating humans.
I do like the concept. Thank you. I do like the concept of the crabs growing emotionally and like, yes, they're more dangerous now because they feel.
Yeah.
Crustacean feelings.
They've become the ultimate in crustacean evolution.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, Danielle. I thoroughly enjoyed yet more crabs.
Anytime, now that I have a direct link to all of them.
To be clear, Philip gave this to us months ago, last year sometime, and you only just remembered, so.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We've been busy with other things.
Yes. So.
We gotta get through all of Hyperion.
Excuses. Yeah, well, I mean, that's my excuse. What's yours?
I had Thai drama to get through.
That's true.
There were things.
Several of them.
Next time we'll have Philip on.
Oh, 100%. You know, again, he is both to blame for everything and to be rewarded.
Or maybe one of the other slug books. Were there more slug books?
Oh, I'm sure there are more slug books.
Slug 2, Slug Boogaloo.
Always. No, Slimaloo.
Slamaloo.
All right, that's enough of that. If you out there want to send us what you think the crab's ultimate evolved form will actually be, you can do so at bookretorts.com.
You can also tweet, Instagram, or Facebook us at bookretorts.
And if you want to fund our crab expedition, we're going to go hunt giant crabs, you can do that at...
Here we are.
Danielle, get on board here. We're going to be just like, was it Humphrey Logan? I forgot his name.
Harvey Logan.
Harvey Logan, game hunters. He could be Sam and Danielle, game hunters. That's our new thing, right? He clearly thinks it was a gold mine, which he was willing to murder to get the reputation for killing a giant crab. So I think it's worth it for us too.
Crazy.
So you can support us at patreon.com/bookretorts.
Yay.
All right. Well, until next time, I guess if you see a giant crab, just set it on fire. Just get a lighter out. Yeah, perfect. No problem.
And then eat it.
I mean, that's obviously the next step. Eat it. Delicious. Well, until then, bye.
Take care, everybody.
I can't wait for the next crab book, Danielle. It better be Crab Heist.
I'll have to look. I don't know what the next one is.
Oh my gosh, Danielle. You know what it should be called? You know what the Crab Heist book should be called?
What?
Ocean's 11. Hey! Come on, it's great. It's right there.
Yeah.